Hey, you guys, it's your boy Josh Vision, and I'm here to bring you my Marco Polo Season 1, Episode 6 review. And the episode was entitled White Moon. So, we begin this episode with us seeing, visually how Kokachin became the fake Blue Princess. So, essentially, we have Kublai and his Mongols attacking the Blue Princess's, people and whatnot. And the Blue Princess essentially sends Kokachin and Toga. Yeah, that's his name. Toga, the guy that's been exchanging that Kokachin's been giving gifts to, to pretty much keep her secret and all that stuff, and to lead them on to think that they could actually be together at some point. She pretty much sends them off to the hills, but Kokachin decides to stay. So Kokachin says to the Blue Princess, "Isn't it better to live instead of die?" But the Blue Princess says, death is better, than being a part of Kublai's harem, etc., etc. So she literally strips naked after that and just stabs herself, and just dies right then and there. So by the time the Mongols get into her place, whatever, Kokachin has essentially put on the Blue Princess's attire, whatever, and is now, as we know her to be, as of now, the Blue Princess, even though she's a fake, whatever. So, besides that, we have, literally right after, we have Kokachin being groomed by her protector, whatever, and she mentions the fact that, why is that whore wrestler from the West, aka Kutalin, Kaido's daughter, why is she coming to the whole White Moon festivities, which in that culture, whatever, represents the new year, I believe. And her protector's like, "Listen, just be nice, just deal with her." Excuse me. So the protector, her protector notices that there's more trinkets of Kokachins that are not available anymore, and he knows exactly who's responsible for this. As was mentioned beforehand, he's aware of what Kokachin is trying to do to keep her secret intact by trying to give Toga this false hope of them being together. And he pretty much says to her, "Listen, we don't have to do this. You don't really have to continue on with this bullshit. Just let me kill this motherfucker." But she's like, "Nah, don't do it, whatever." So after this scene, we have Marco pretty much meeting up with his dad and his uncle before they're about to leave. And Marco's dad says, "Listen, I understand what you did. And so does your uncle, even though he may not admit it. You saved our lives, you know?" And pretty much he says to Marco, Marco pretty much says that, there's no way we're going to be able to see each other again. And his dad smiles and is like, "We'll see you. We'll meet again, son." This really a great moment, in my opinion. So after that, we have Biamba show up. And Biamba pretty much mentions to Marco the perils that his father and his uncle have to go through. They no longer have the golden tablet. What the fuck? They no longer have the golden tablet. So that's not their way of pretty much being safe, from bandits and all that stuff. They're essentially on their own and shit, you know. And Marco's like, "Listen, I'm aware of this." And Biamba's like, "Listen, it's nothing that they deserve. It's nothing, that pretty much they deserve all this shit for stealing, whatever." So essentially they get back to business and they have to find out who is truly responsible for Kublai's assassination attempt, which they were doing back in, I believe, was it Churchill, something like that, in the previous episode. So before they can really get on and about their mission, Kusla shows up and she says to Marco, "So, how did you enjoy your last time, pretty much?" And I believe I forgot the name of the capital, but pretty much where she resides, whatever, her home and her father's home, etc. And it was just kind of funny because we all know that they pretty much smashed, and it was just like kind of hilarious that Marco and her having these like little bats and forths. It was, I enjoy. I think they have, Marco and her have more chemistry than Marco and the Blue Princess, aka Kokachin, has. But that's just my opinion. So she essentially says to Marco that I believe Marco says to her that he really can't really can't really pleasure. I mean, pleasure. Can't really talk with her because him and Biamba have business they have to do for the con, and Kutsu's like, "What? Please, if you don't try to like at least escort me to to the royal hall, or whatever, then I'll tell the con of your lack of respect." So Marco just kind of smiles and leads her, whatever. So we have the scene in which Jingham comes in to Kublai's bedchambers, essentially. And he says to his father, okay, what of news of what happened when Marco and Biamba went, to meet up with the Hatsashin to find out, all the details of shit. So Kublai's like, well, nothing of importance, whatever. Because remember the previous episode, Marco and Biamba didn't really find anything. All they found was that someone was inside the palace. That was a possible, assassin or whatever. But it was really nothing to really go on. It wasn't really that much of a great lead. So Kublai was kind of right in saying that that Jingham shouldn't really know about this because it's really not that big of a deal as of now. So Kublai asks, I believe Shabi comes and she mentions to Kublai that Kusulin's finally here, and you can tell Kublai loves Kusulin, and he's like, "Is she dressed as a lady or as a warrior?" And Shabi's like, "As the latter." And he's like, "I love that girl." So he pretty much kind of pushes Jingham aside, and he makes his way towards the hall, whatever. So we have this interesting scene in which Kusulin shows her refinedness, and she mentions the fact that her father sent her to protect the Khan due to the assassination attempt that was made 2 episodes ago. So I believe after this we have Kusulin pretty much being told by Chabi to join her as she sort of takes her through Kambalak. So after this little, yeah, so after this we have Marco speaking with Kokachin. And Kokachin kind of tells Marco a little bit of half-truth. She tells Marco that the guy that she's been supplying the jewels to, his name is Toga, and that he does not want to hurt her. That I believe she says that, I don't know if she tells Marco that they were promised to be married to each other. I don't think so, because that would have totally, wouldn't make the scenes later in this episode make much sense. But yeah, I believe it. For what I remember, she says that Toga was one of her servants and that he's from the Bayet tribe, which is her tribe, aka the real Blue Princess tribe, not hers, but whatever. So Marco feels though she's not telling him as much as he needs to, but he goes by this. And she gives Marco the jewels. And she departs, and then her protector just kind of looks at Marco like, and that's about all that happened. So after that, we have Biamba meeting up with Jingham, and Jingham says, "Good new moon year to you, Biamba." Biamba's like, and I think he said, "Good new year, good new moon year, whatever, brother." And keep in mind, especially going back early in these episodes, he always referred to Biamba as a bastard. Even Biamba's like, "I get concerned when you refer to me as your brother instead of bastard." So Jingham cuts to the chase. He's like, "So what news did you and the Latin receive from your journeys and your confrontation with the Hashashin?" And Biamba's like, "Nothing really to report." And then Jingham's like, "Well, nothing that you don't want to report." And Biamba's like, "There was nothing to report, dude. There was nothing, no strong leads, whatever." And Jingham thinks he's hiding something from him. So he pretty much is trying to threaten him, kind of intimidate him. Biamba's like, "Listen, man, I know how the rule go, all right? I tell the Khan, and it's a Khan job to tell you, Prince. Okay? So I'm doing my job." And Jingham's like, "Listen, I will know what threatens our father. And if you're not telling me all that you know, and if he dies, you will join him." Essentially. So after that, we have Marco and Biamba going on their journey to try to figure out details in which, and also kind of figure out if Sangha the tax collector from episode 2, um, what connection does he have to this? Because there has to be some type of connection. So essentially, we have Marco and Biamba visiting Sanga's, well, his family. And it seems though since Saga died, whatever, a lot of shit hit the fan. Like, if I remember from the previous episode, his daughter is literally starting to become a prostitute because she was at the bar or the tavern, whatever you want to call it, back when Marco was trying to get some answers in regards to Toga. So essentially, Marco comes in, and the children still love Marco, obviously. But the mom kind of spits at him and says, listen, 40 days, Christian, 40 days. That's how long I post some more. So essentially, the 40-day period has pretty much been passed, whatever. So Marco says to to Sanga's, grieving widow that, listen, I didn't sentence him, okay? We both know Sanga was a good man. I just need to know some details on why he traveled to the Hashishin area for. That's what I want to know. And she says that he traveled there on orders from Ahmed. And that's all she can really tell Marco. That's all she honestly knows, about the whole transgressions, whatever. And pretty much after that, she kind of takes her kids, whatever. And Sanga's daughter pretty much tells Marco and Biamba politely, I think it's time for you guys to go. So they head towards Ahmed's headquarters, the finance, prime minister of finance, his room, whatever. And Ahmed says, listen, I can't stop corruption. I can't be responsible for all this shit, whatever. Biamba mentions, listen, if Sanga was doing some shady shit, he would have to have agents, whatever. You know what I mean? And like I said before, Ahmed's like, listen, here are my soldiers. Here are my agents, the financiers, whatever. Like I mentioned before, these are my soldiers. And I refuse to I refuse to pretty much sentence a man or pass down shit, whatever, or make claims, whatever, without any proof. So pretty much Ahmed at this point gives valid reasons for why he had nothing to do with anything dealing with the Hashishin and all that stuff. Pretty much saying that if corruption happens, and then there was something along them lines, it had nothing to do with him per se. But he highly doubts it would be any of his people because they're just financiers, they're not soldiers. So before Marco and Biamba leave, Marco was like, why did you sentence Sanga to death? And Ahmed was like, listen, if I didn't say, what he did with the whole Silk and all that shit, being a little, trying to compensate Silk for the currency and all that stuff, then either you or me, Master Polo, that would have suffered his fate. So pretty much I did it for the both of us. So Marco was like, all right. So the next thing we have Marco and Biamba visiting Yusuf. And this was a really interesting scene. Yusuf, who is of the Muslim religion, he's praying. And Marco and Biamba, Yusuf obviously is a little teed off. They interrupted his prayer. He decides to, actually hear what they have to say, let them question him, whatever. So Marco was like, listen, we didn't come to question, we just asked for your advice. We know that when the Khan is out of commission or dead, you're the vice regent. So you're second command, you're his proxy. And then Yusuf's like, well, yeah, I'm his proxy, but first off, I'm not ambitious. All I care about is how can I best serve my Khan? I speak truth. I speak honesty. More than I can say for the both of you. And then we have Biamba say, listen, you're the vice regent. And Marco, I believe Marco says, sort of cuts him off a bit. He said that you didn't have to kill Songhai because Kublai had nothing to do with Songhai I believe that's the name, Songhai, getting murdered. Well, pretty much trampled by horses or whatever. That was on your command. Bianca adds that you could have branded him, whatever. You could have took an eye or something. And then this one used to get a little aggravated. He's like, well, guess what? I could do the same thing to you, Biamba, for dare trying to challenge the authority of the vice regent. And that's when Biamba had to be held up by Marco, saying, you little shit, I should. So after that, we have Marco saying, well, my father was branded. And then Yusef's like, listen, that had nothing to do with me. That was the Khan's orders, Marco. He favors you. So that's why he kind of gave you a little bit of favoritism in regards to how to deal with your father. So pretty much, the scene ends with Yusef saying that I've earned the Khan's trust because, like I mentioned before, of my honesty and me speaking truth. How will you guys earn his trust? And while you're at it, think about that while y'all essentially get the fuck out my house. So after that, we're going back to the song Dynasty. So the Chancellor, so far in these episodes, has been really interesting. It's just great watching how Chancellor Jessedal and the Emperor's widow have been, it's been like a game of nip and tuck between them on trying to gain control, enough influence. You know, could you have the old Empress who's trying to just make peace with the Mongols? You have Jessedal wanting to just exterminate them, just exterminate their threat, especially the devil Kublai. So in the last episode, I believe that Jessedal was actually given command over the war affairs or something. Over the war, the army, and all that stuff. But it turns out the old Empress was able to kind of pull one on him by electing I believe, a warrior named Jing Fi or Ting Feng, something. Wait. I think it was Tin. Fuck. I hear that I forget names. I swear to God, I'll remember his name when I do the episode 7 review. But he is known for being a great legendary warrior. And what makes him even more, to stand out more is that he's not just a warrior, he's a philosopher, he's a poet, and he rose from being a peasant into being this great legendary fighter or whatever. So, Jessedal says, oh, that's great. You know, you think he's better than me? Why? Because he's a peasant? Because he relates to the peasants? Listen, I've been freaking busting my ass for the past, I'm assuming, at least 2-3 decades or so, defending this place. You know what I mean? Like, what do you have, old woman? What do you have? You're old and you got nothing. You know what I mean? So essentially when he says that, the great champion of the people and the great warrior, he comes in. He gives Jessedal a little bit of a respectful little bow, whatever, and then he makes his place towards, moves towards the Empress, whatever. And she pretty much says to Jessedal after this, pretty much, go on, being a dick. So the next scene after this, we find out that Maylene is being told by her prostitute friend that Jessedal has already bounded his niece's feet, aka Maylene's daughter, and that she's not sure, what he's gonna do. And he pretty much tells, I believe she pretty much tells Maylene that he wants her to kill Kublai pretty much ASAP as soon as possible. So I believe the prostitute gives Maylene some type of poison, something that's yellow, and she's supposed to use that to kill the Khan, whatever. But obviously that doesn't work because in the very next scene, when in Kublai's harem, she puts over her lips a little bit. She tries to kiss him, doesn't work. She kisses the other woman, and the prostitute woman unfortunately dies, whatever. So at this point, she's kind of trying to figure out, all right, how the fuck can I kill this? How can I kill him just to save my daughter? So after that, we have Marco meeting up with Toga. So Toga pretty much says to Marco, listen, I was promised to her, to Kokachin, okay? We're supposed to be married. And Marco's like, you love her? And then the whole marriage thing comes to be, and he's like, just think to himself, you know what? stop this bullshit. You know what? You may not get with her, but at least you'll be alive. And keep in mind during the scene, he actually has the jewels that coaching gave to him to give to Toga, and saying he keeps it wrapped, behind his back. And that pays dividends later in the episode when during the celebration, or early parts of the celebration, Marco apologizes to Sanga's daughter, who seems like she's had a crush on Marco since the beginning of the season. He gives her this rich, the jewelry that he was supposed to give to Toga as a way for her and her family to get out of poverty. So I thought that was a really great and touching moment. And I'm wondering if she's going to have any role in the upcoming season or seasons. So, yeah, after that, we have this interesting between Biamba and Kutulin. And Biamba is just practicing, the sword. And she asks him, so where is your European playmate this evening? He's like, how would I know? She's all saying, he's an innocent, isn't he, in this world, right? And Biamba's like, I fear this world is tearing whatever innocence he had away from him. And she's like, well, that's good. Because the innocent can't survive in this world. You gotta have some balls, or you gotta have some toughness to you, essentially. So, Biamba says to her, you want to wrestle? Because remember in the previous episode, Kaidu said the one that's able to defeat his daughter can marry his daughter. So, but I believe Kundala's like, nah, I don't feel like wrestling tonight. But I'll challenge you to a sword fight. And they prepare to fight each other, with their swords, but the scene cuts away. So, I believe what else happened in this episode? We had this brief scene between the great warrior from the peasantry that rolls his way up the ranks and Jessadal. And they go back and forth. And Jessadal says that he's heard all about, this guy's accomplishments. How for the past 30 years or so, his rebels have been pretty much killing Kublai's tax collectors and, gaining more supplies and stuff for their people. But that hasn't really been working out as of late, And I believe the guy said something really interesting. He says, you know what war is, Chancellor? He said, war is pointless. It never ends. It's best to negotiate peace in order to pretty much stop the cycle of senseless death. And Jessadal says a really funny retort. He's like, oh, great. The warrior that hates war. Classic. I guess you're more foolish than I thought you were, and the Empress more brighter. So they keep on going back and forth, whatever, to the point where they just kind of disperse from each other. Because it was obvious that both sides were like, okay, this ain't going to work. You know what, we're just going to agree, disagree, just go our separate ways. So, I believe we're in the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen. And before I get there, I got to mention this part in which Kokachin and Kutulin are accompanying Shabi, Kublai's wife, and Jingum's mother throughout, the main capital, whatever, of Kublai's empire. So, Shabi mentions that Kublai has done all this stuff for the people, like the goats, whatever, supplies, all this shit. Yet, when you look at these people, they seem like they look like they're impoverished. They look like they're barely making it, And I think, and that's one thing that Kokachin notices. She says that, you know what, these people may be appreciative of your husband, but it feels as though that there's a little bit of delusion when it comes to that. Because, I think she was trying to say that they're only loyal to him because right now he's the top guy. They ain't got shit. And as much as you say that they have a lot, they really don't have a lot. And it's for Kublai's best interest to actually ask people more about what he should do for them instead of one day these people just turning on him, and, and also, not just turning on him, but like making it quite possible for them to actually get at him and kill him, whatever. But Kuchli cuts her off and says, listen, I'm here. My men are here. We got this, you know? And it seemed as though Chabi was interested in this. You know, it seemed like she was kind of see her as being very, seeing more than what she at first thought. It seemed like she's actually interested in thinking that, okay, she's very smart. She's very attentive, you know? But that's pretty much all we got for this episode, besides the fact that I believe during the actual part, the end game of this episode, Chabi elects for Kokachin, the Blue Princess, to actually be Jingham's new wife. And Kublai is like, well, all right, I don't give a shit. Fine, we'll have someone instead of his current, like, unbarren bitch of a wife he has. So during the celebration, we have Maylene literally, you can see like the conflict in her face. She doesn't really want to do this, but she knows that I got to do this for my daughter, for her to live. So she goes straight badass mode, and she just starts laying motherfuckers out. Like striking dudes with knives, the staff. I swear to God, at one point she's taking on at least 40 or 30 Mongol knights and Imperial knights. And she got at least half of them down, probably a bit more. And the only reason why she stopped from really getting through Kublai's line, which everyone's prepared for. Beyond was prepared. He got his sword out. Kusling got her sword out. Jingham and the company, whatever. Is because Chabi shoots an arrow that goes right through Maylene's fucking shoulder. It was so badass, but it was so like, oh, you were like it was you. It was just disgusting. Just a thing hanging, like sticking out. It almost went damn near through her freaking shoulder. But yeah, and it ends with her crying out, whatever. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode. Thank you guys for listening / watching my review of Marco Polo Season 1, Episode 6, which was entitled White Moon. Like the video if you can. Subscribe to my channel and write some comment down below. And once again, this is your boy, Josh Vision. Adios.